We saw a lot of good and also some bad in the Baltimore Ravens Week 1 preseason win over the Colts, but some stats dropped that provide some crazy context on some of the Ravens' young players. All that and more coming up next on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here today, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day on this Saturday, a little bonus episode, and of course, your first listen each and every single day are free and available on all podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel, and in audio form where you can follow along and subscribe as well. 5 days a week here on Locked On Ravens, Monday through Friday. Plus, we have bonus episodes like this one here today when there are headlines. We also go live after every single Ravens game like we did on Thursday night after every single piece of Ravens big news. We also just added in Locked On Ravens watch-alongs where you can watch every Ravens game with me play by play. We analyze everything and react to it in real time. We also have the Locked On Ravens Squad Show with myself, Sam Njoku, and former Ravens receiver Kadri Ismail. So there's plenty of Ravens content here over on Locked On Ravens. Lots to dive into on this bonus episode today on Saturday. Hopefully everybody's weekend is off to a good start. As you can probably tell, I took down my old setup to make a new setup. The new setup is not going as planned, so we're rocking through that. So I had kind of like my makeshift virtual background setup. Now I'm in a third setup. So not the setup we used to have, not the new setup that's in progress. We were at a third setup here for a couple days. So we're moving around, we're grooving around. And hey, you know what? The show goes on. That's the beauty of it here on Locked On Ravens. But we have a lot to dive into today. We have some wild Mike Green and Daniel Faalele stats to dive into. Is obviously there is more added context after games happens. And wow, yeah, we certainly got some of that when it came to those guys. So I want to talk about them because they were two of the big storylines of the game. Not the only ones. Keaton Mitchell, LeJohntay West. So we'll get into those guys a little bit in the second part of the show. But I want to add this context in here for Mike Green and Daniel Faalele. Then we'll get into a stock report. It feels like everybody wants to get the stock reports in from these preseason games. I do it every year with the preseason and with training camp, kind of assess where guys stand now versus where they stood before the game, who improved their stock, who didn't. We'll get to that in the second part of the show. Then the Ravens actually worked out a couple of players on Friday, so we'll get into those guys a little bit, and if the Ravens might be hinting at certain positional, I don't want to say upgrades, but I would say more so in the depth department. So let's get into it here. Let's start with Mike Green, and then we'll get to Daniel Faalele because these stats add so much context into these guys and what they were able to do over the course of the game on Thursday night. The Ravens again win that one 24-16. 1-0 in the preseason. Ravens greatest preseason team of all. No, I'm kidding. Preseason wins don't matter. What you want to see is, one, the team get out of that thing fully healthy, and two, you obviously want to see player development. And I think that we saw the flashes from Mike Green. He had incredible bend. Actually, there's a post. Ryan Mink put it out on social media. It was a picture taken by Sean Hubbard, the Ravens team photographer. Mike Green with some of the most insane bend I have ever seen in a picture captured. His foot and ankle are essentially upward, and the rest of his body is like leaning towards the ground, bending under the offensive line. And Mike Green was a menace. He was getting double teamed in this game a little bit as well. I mean, just all across the board. I wanted to see what I wanted to see out of Mike Green, right? And that to me was, what did I want to see? It was the ability to disrupt, the ability to make an impact on the game. And to me, I think just become a matchup problem for the opposing defense. And Brian Baldinger did a really great breakdown on Mike Green for, one of his Baldy's breakdowns and talked about a lot of the good things that Mike Green did, a lot of the moves, different arrays of pass rushing moves that he has, and how he's able to use his power and his speed. And, even in the run game, he was shedding. Like it was an all around performance. But then you look at Mike Green from a stats perspective. And I think this to me probably was one of the craziest stats of the entire night on Thursday. Brett Coleman put out that Mike Green had 14 pass rush snaps last night on true dropbacks, and his win rate was 50%. 50% for Mike Green on those plays. And you can also look at some of the other stats. He had 27 total snaps, 4 pressures, 3 tackles. He also dropped into zone 4 times. He is a jack of all trades. And the fact that he was winning early, he was winning often. Gordon McGinnis, PFF Gordon, put out the pass rush win rate last night among Ravens edge defenders. 28.6% was Mike Green, according to PFF. And again, you have multiple different stat categories, right? So obviously Brett Coleman talking about true dropbacks on those pass rush snaps. Win rate 50%. Gordon McGinnis, 28.6. Win rate on pass rush win rate in general among Ravens as defenders. David Ajabo came in, by the way, third there, according to Gordon, at 19%. K'Mon Rucker was number 2 at 20%. So, I mean, I'm so excited for Mike Green. I can't put into words. I guess I kind of have to. That's my job. But I can't put into words how excited I am. And you can see, like, the motor was there. That's something that was on his scouting report. The motor is out of this world. You know, he is a smart football player in the sense that he doesn't get distracted or thrown off. You know, he didn't look like he was out of place. He looks like he belonged there. And I think that, to me, when you have a guy that can both play the run the way that Mike Green did on Thursday and rush the passer the way he did, true 3-down player that you get at pick 59 in the second round. And we know that he had his reasons for falling, and the Ravens felt comfortable enough to take him. This guy is an absolute menace already. And I get it. You know, it's preseason. It's week 1. I don't want to overreact and call Mike Green like the next, you know, great AFC North pass rusher. You know, I don't want to do that off one preseason game, but the college tape is there. The college production is there. The camp production and the camp hype is there. Now the preseason production is there and the tape is there as well. He's continuing to stack. And if he continues on this path, he is going to be a beast. So insane win rates for Mike Green. He showed you what you wanted to see. Now, let's flip to the other side quickly. Offensive line, Daniel Faalele. This is, you know, we just spent a lot of time talking about how good Mike Green was in this game. Well, Daniel Faalele wasn't as good. Let's just put it that way. Cole Jackson, he put out a stat from PFF that said PFF had Daniel Faalele with a grade of 40.7 in 12 snaps. He had a 62.9 run blocking grade and a 0.0 pass blocking grade. 0.0. Do you know how bad you have to be on the field to have a 0.0 pass rushing grade? And actually, Coach Evans over at Siptatelli, he put out the film breakdown on Daniel Faalele, did a great job kind of analyzing. He said that Daniel Faalele had 12 plays. He had 7 that he could work with and 4 that needed work. And he ended up saying the screenplay can't really be evaluated. So I guess that's kind of like it's a wash. So 7 plays that Coach here said he could work with and 4 that actually, you know, said, all right, that needs a little bit of work. And I want to try to get Coach on here. He knows his stuff when it comes to film, Ravens film, breaks it all down. So I know Coach pops in here sometimes. So if you're listening, you're going to hear from me soon. I want to get you on, Coach. So he's a guy that knows his stuff. And he actually, by the way, just for a little bit more added context on the offensive line, he also said that for Ben Cleveland, he had 22 plays on Ben Cleveland, 16 he can work with, and he had 6 straight up negatives. So, yeah, look, for Faalele, the big viral clip is him getting bowled over. I know the center's foot got caught up on him, and it kind of hurt the play for him, but he was already getting bowled back. You know, a guy drove straight into him, knocked him off his feet, essentially. The center's foot being there or not being there wasn't going to make or break that rep for Daniel Faalele. It was going to be a bad rep regardless. So, you know, I'm not putting stock into that. I just don't think the Ravens should have called the right guard spot. Like, I think that should have been a competition. I don't know what their problem is with Ben Cleveland. I thought he put in, you know, Coach said it there, like 16 versus 6 in terms of positive versus negative plays. You know, you'd like to have it a little bit lower on the negative play number there, but I still think that's at least warranting of a competition. It just feels like Ben Cleveland again. Like, I don't know why the Ravens re-signed him. Like, I truly don't know why they did. They had a perfect opportunity to get out of it. Obviously, Ben Cleveland had the thing going on this offseason. I guess it was Cleveland's only option, and the Ravens might like the depth. I don't know. But if you're not going to at least give, like, he's never going to get a chance in Baltimore, it feels like. It truly feels like he's never going to get a fair chance under John Harbaugh. And I don't know. We know John Harbaugh is a big practice guy. Obviously, Ben Cleveland's not a big practice guy. There's been it's been a tough relationship, it feels like, between those guys because of that. So why bring him back if you're not going to give him a fair shot? And I think that with Faalele, and I put out a post on social media, Twitter, Instagram, kind of like, what's your honest opinion? And if you have one, put it in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube, or, send it to me, or go find the post on social media and comment on that if you're in audio form. Look, a lot of people are saying, get him off the Ravens. He's terrible, this, that, and the other. But you had Cole Jackson here. Obviously, he was an offensive line guru. He knows his stuff when it comes to offensive line breakdowns. Cole said, quote, he's below average, but his bad plays are really bad. He doesn't fit the scheme and was a better fit for a downhill power gap offense. There should be a competition at right guard. And that to me is it's it. And that's what I was saying during the watch along we had, during the post game. Like, why was there not a competition? Faalele improved during the year last year. Now he had to improve from pretty bottom of the barrel play over the first couple of weeks, but did they just see the improvement and say, okay? And look, he's worked really hard to transform his body. Like, you can clearly tell he put in work during the offseason. But some of the things that we saw last season, where sometimes he can't get out into space effectively, like we saw that last year, is that going to continue to be a problem for him this year in game settings? Lamar Jackson makes his offensive line look better than it is. Lamar's the ultimate talent elevator. Ultimate talent elevator. That's what Lamar Jackson is. So guys like Cooper Rush and Devin Leary, they can't make the plays Lamar Jackson can, and it makes him look bad. But, at the same time, like, Lamar Jackson can't be your scapegoat. You have to be able to perform, because you don't want to be the reason why Lamar goes down. And, it's tough all around. 0.0 pass blocking grade is just absolutely crazy. But coming to the second part of the show, we'll dive into a stock up, stock down from the Ravens preseason week 1 win over the Colts. So stay tuned, plenty coming your way on the show. First, the show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. One financial goal I've been meaning to get serious about, it's my saving. And Monarch has helped me a lot with that. Sometimes I look at my spending and I've been surprised with how fast it adds up. So I want to be able to save a little bit more, and having everything in one app makes it really easy to manage my money on a day-to-day basis, because I've wished for a while that I could have all my accounts and spending in one place, and Monarch has absolutely delivered on that. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, me and Locked On Ravens are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. And one of my favorite features, the new Guillotine Leagues. They just dropped every week. Lowest scoring teams eliminated, and the last one standing wins. Whether you're all in on something new, or you like sticking to head-to-head leagues, or jumping into public leagues, Yahoo has got you covered. Celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness. Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you talking Ravens football. Let's dive into a little stock report for the Baltimore Ravens. Stock up and stock down. You know, you can classify it as a lot of different things, winners and losers, who's hot, who's not, you know, a lot of different things. But we're going to go with stock up, stock down as we do. We've done it before here on Locked On Ravens. We did a little bit yesterday, you know, post-game show, watch along, you know, all the content we did on Thursday night heading into Friday morning. We had a lot of that. So I want to do an official one. Obviously, we're about 36 hours at the time the show was supposed to come out, right? Around 36 hours after the game ended. So, you know, there's more added context to it now. Truly, we'll just go position by position, not necessarily one way or the other in terms of stock up, stock down. We'll just do it that way. Let's start with the quarterbacks. I do think Cooper Rush is a small stock down to me. Now, it's more when you put into the context that Cooper's just had a pretty rough go of it in training camp, it sounded like. And, you know, he had the interception. I still thought that was DPI. It is what it is. But, you know, then he was only 2 for 4, 16 yards. So I want to see him a little bit more next week. Like, I want to see him get more run because LeJohntay had that punt return touchdown and Cooper, that essentially eliminated one of his possessions. So still, like, I don't think Cooper played well. Like, I'm still concerned about Cooper, but, you know, next week, I want to see. I'm not going to be too quick to judge Cooper until we see him next week. But, you know, I'm still not encouraged by, you know, what we've heard and obviously what we saw in that preseason game. So not trying to gloss over the fact that, like, yeah, 2 for 4 for 16 yards and interception is not a good stat line because, hey, guess what? It's not. But I want to see more of him. I do not want to see more of Evan Leary. I don't think he's a fit for this team. You know, he didn't wow me in college. I didn't like the pick when it happened. I've been very vocal about that. I thought that Joe Milton was the last draftable quarterback in that class last season. The Ravens obviously did not believe that, and they took Devin Leary. It was bad. You know, it's like 3 stock downs for Devin Leary. Honestly, maybe more. He couldn't get the ball to his receivers. He was overthrowing guys, missing his targets, missing his spots, going through reads and panic checking it down, which resulted in an interception. Like, I didn't like what I saw at all. Like, there were very little positives to take away. Very little. Like, even like Coach said, we talked about it in the first part of the show, there were positive plays for Daniel Faalele in that game. There were barely any. There was maybe 1 or 2. The throw to Tez Walker that was out of bounds. He drew a pass interference on that play, but it didn't even count for completion. And then the throw to LeJohntay Wester from Devin Leary, that was probably his best play of the game. But it was just bad all the way around. And I'm going to say this again. The receivers deserved better. Because none of those guys outside of LeJohntay, who obviously made most of his hay during this game, he did that in the special teams department. He did have the 2 catches, but guys like Dayton Wade, Tez Walker, Keith Kirkwood, Anthony Miller, they were not able, Tylan Wallace, not able to get opportunities in this game because the quarterback play was so bad. That's the reality. The quarterback play was so bad, we did not get to evaluate the receivers properly. And that's not fair to the receivers. Guys who were trying to make names for themselves, guys who were trying to – it's not only about fighting for the Ravens and a spot on the Ravens 53-man. It's fighting for practice squad spots. It's putting on tape for other teams that they can reference. The receivers didn't get to do that because the quarterback's play was so bad. And I feel terribly for the wide receivers. And honestly, I think the quarterback should feel badly for doing that as well. You know, it's harsh for me to say that, but it's true. Like, it's the reality. So hopefully next week they'll get more of an opportunity there. Yeah, Keaton Mitchell and Rasheen Ali, I think both are stock up for me. Rasheen had a rough go of it in the first part. You know, really didn't think he was doing too much. A lot of uninspiring runs for me for Rasheen Ali. Keaton was great, but Rasheen Ali had a couple of uninspiring runs early. But with that kick return, I think he bounced back there, almost broke that one to the house, and then that drive was the Rasheen Ali drive. You know, that was the Rasheen Ali drive. So glad that he bounced back. I know John Harbaugh said that he ended up getting banged up. I think that Rasheen, even though I don't think he makes the roster still, I thought it was a good showing overall. Keaton Mitchell was awesome. I mean, we talked about it all throughout the night on Thursday, watch along, post-game, squad show, the burst, the speed, the elusivity, bouncing to the outside, yards after contact. Keaton looked back. Keaton looked confident, and that's what I wanted to see from him. You know, sometimes it can take some time for guys to get used to being just on their legs again when they get injured like that. And for Keaton, he was feeling his way out last season with that, it felt like, and I'm really glad and really happy for him because this is a guy that's going to be important for the Ravens this season. I have no doubt in my mind about that. So I thought Keaton, obviously, that's like, for LeJohntay, obviously that's another thing with him, with the punt return. We saw the speed and the elusivity from him. But, for Keaton coming off the injury, I felt so happy for him. So Keaton's like 5 stock ups. Rasheen Ali is 1 stock up. LeJohntay Wester, I'd probably say it's 3 or 4 stocks up, considering he, in my opinion, wrapped up the punt return job. We saw that he has a plan when he was returning the ball. He has the athleticism to juke guys out of their shoes and make something out of nothing. Yeah, it wasn't just a touchdown. His first punt return got swept under the rug because of how awesome his touchdown was, which, I mean, fair, right? But I want to give him credit for that. Obviously, the catch from Devin Leary was really nice as well. So I really liked what I saw from LeJohntay Wester. And then other than that, not really a ton to report. I mean, Andrew Voorhees, to me, I thought had a pretty solid game, which was nice to see. Had a couple of really nice plays. So, shout out to Andrew Voorhees for that. But coming up in the final part of the show, we'll continue to round out our stock report for the Baltimore Ravens with the defensive side of the ball. And then we'll also dive into a safety. Could potentially be on the way. The Ravens working out some guys on Friday. So stay tuned. Plenty coming up on the show. First, the show is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off of it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. And I come from an avid golf family. I've seen my fair share of crazy hole-in-ones, and the boost you get on the course from 5-Hour Energy is incredible. Golf's all about good times with good people and good flavors. Of course, the grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavor 5-Hour Energy shots today. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Saturday edition of the show. A little bonus episode here. Be sure to catch the regular Locked On Ravens show Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. Eastern time. We also have bonus episodes like this. We have the Locked On Ravens Squad show. We have watch-alongs where we react to the games live, instant reaction shows right after games. All the Ravens content and coverage you need is right here on Locked On Ravens. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form and follow along in audio form. We have such amazing communities, video form, audio form, social media, subtext. You can follow me, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at KOstreicher34. Let's round out the stock up, stock down, little stock reporting. I guess I will mention this. We'll just do this right off the bat. Daniel Faalele obviously was a stock down. All right. We talked about him in the first segment. So I thought, what I said clearly indicates stock down for Faalele. And then Mike Green is big stock up. So we won't talk about those two guys because we did it in the first part of the show. But Mike Green's counterparts on the edge, Adisa Isaac, as well as David Ojabo, both really solid in this game on Thursday night. I thought both showed a lot. Isaac was credited for the sack. And I personally think that Mike Green and Adisa Isaac both should have gotten half a sack for this one. But Isaac looked really good, felt like he really filled into his body this offseason with a full NFL training regimen and a full NFL offseason. Ojabo had a clean path to Anthony Richardson, and guess what? He took advantage of the opportunity. So both those guys, to me, really played well. TJ Okoye and TJ Ravenel, those were two guys that also played really well. Players that I think, might not necessarily make the roster, but could be high priority practice squad players. Obviously, Ravenel has been with the organization. Okoye, he's been somebody as well. So, with what the Ravens have to offer at this point, there aren't a lot of active spots when it comes to the Ravens and what they have to offer there, because they just signed Brent Urban, right? There's not going to be a lot of spots to be offered. In fact, there are probably going to be no spots to be offered there. But these are guys making names for themselves that maybe another team picks up on it, or the Ravens can bring him into the practice squad themselves and have even more quality depth. So shout out to Okoye, shout out to Ravenel. Also, shout out to Jalen Armour-Davis. Jalen Armour-Davis, big stock up guy to me here. Sticky in coverage, made some plays in run support. I thought TJ Tampa, had some moments that he didn't look great, but he also had moments that looked really good. And, I think that there was context. Kadri Ismail, former Ravens receiver, he added that where it was off coverage stuff with TJ. So, it wasn't as bad as maybe it looked when you add in the context. But I thought TJ really bounced back later in the game. He looked aggressive, sticky in coverage, and it was really important for him to get reps because he barely played in 2024. So John Harbaugh talked about that aspect. Bo Braid, I thought, played well. He was a stock-up guy. Chandler Martin, Jay Higgins, 2 undrafted inside linebackers who were fighting for maybe one roster spot at this point. They both played great football. Higgins had the interception on a Ravenel actually got to Riley Leonard and forced that ball into essentially Jay Higgins' hands with a bad throw. But both those guys had deflections at the line that were huge. And speaking of that, Aeneas Peebles also had a deflection at the line. I thought Peebles looked really good as well. Tyler Loop was kind of a mixed bag on special teams, just kind of going to special teams real quick. Obviously made the 52-yarder, missed the 46-yarder, but Harbaugh, and we had Nick Moore on the squad show, Ravens long snapper, on Thursday night into Friday morning. He said that, Loop stubbed his toe. John Harbaugh said that. And then, Nick Moore was kind of talking about how it was his first NFL kick. So, it can be, that's something that everybody might get some nerves for. So we'll kind of see there. Other than that, though, I guess Teddy Buchanan might be a stock down, got washed out a lot. So I'd like to see a little bit more from him in this game. But other than that, Ruben Lowry made a couple nice plays. Keon Martin did the same thing. So a lot of depth, 1 through 90 on this Ravens roster. But the Ravens might be bringing in potentially a new safety. The Ravens worked out a couple of guys on Friday, defensive lineman Jordan Riley and defensive back, essentially a safety, Jordan Whitehead. Now, Whitehead, he has a resume. He was a 4th-round pick of the Buccaneers back in 2018. He has ended up playing really important roles. He appeared in 12 games of the Buccaneers last year, recorded 79 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 3 pass deflections. So still played a major role for a playoff team last year. Over the course of his career, which again started in 2018, he has 557 tackles on his career, 2.5 sacks on his career. So he's not really like a sack guy. And in terms of interceptions, he has 11. His career high came in 2023 at the Jets with 4. This would be a solid signing for me. I think he's a player. For me, it's the safety position. It's not about how I feel about Bo Braid or Sanusi Kane. It's not. It's about having depth behind those guys because we saw what could go wrong. It did go wrong for the Ravens last year. Any depth you can get is good depth. And I think that for me, seeing what happened last year, they just ran out of it. They ran out of options. You want to give yourself every option you can if you're the Ravens to go bring in a playmaker. So if it's Whitehead, if it's someone else, I'm still in favor of bringing in a veteran safety. I know the Ravens also have to maybe do some roster reshuffling with Bilal Kone's injury and Rashid Ali getting banged up. So prayers to those 2 guys, hopefully speedy recovery. Obviously for Kone, whose injury was devastating, and Ali, who we don't have much context about right now. So maybe Whitehead comes in. I think it'd be a fine signing for Baltimore, and I think that would be a nice addition to an already loaded Ravens secondary. That's all I have for you here today, though, on this bonus edition of Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show. On the way out, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form and follow along in audio form for 5 days a week, plus more of daily Ravens coverage and content. Tell a friend, tell the family member. We're here for them, just like we're here for you on Locked On Ravens. So maybe back here tomorrow. I'm not sure. If there's more headlines, we will talk about them, of course. So be sure to stay tuned, and I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.